Let's take a deep breath and we can kind of just jump right into it.
Nice. Good way to start.
We can do that at 2-minute intervals so that we're really doing self-care as we progress during this interview.
Again, it's such an honor to have you both here. We have both of you, the mom-daughter duo. You both are such a team, and it was probably traumatic to also be sharing some of this stuff publicly. How has your relationship, I guess, evolved since then? And how have you grown together into this team? It could be for either one, whoever wants to start us off and feel brave.
Okay, she's pointing to me. All right, well, I have nothing but good things to say about how this journey has affected our relationship, because the type of mother-daughter duo that we are now isn't necessarily the type that we were even 4 years ago. So I think that two of us have gone through tremendous growth together. We have a deeper mutual respect for what each of us has had to do to get here. And we're so committed. We don't do small talk. Really had to go deep, and we had to go deep to move forward. So I just feel like I'm one of the lucky ones because I do have this support system in place. We do work better together on the same team than on separate teams.
Well, I thought we worked really well on separate teams, but I won.
Yeah, you did. You did. She crushed me. She came in, shook it up, and then I came crawling back like, okay, I surrender, same team now.
My beloved India was stuck in a very dangerous situation for several years. And there was a period of time when the cult had really conditioned her to see me as the arch enemy number one and really polarized our relationship. And she wasn't speaking to me, and I had started being very outspoken about the fact that I thought she was in tremendous danger. But I had this vision the whole time, which may seem crazy to people, that at a soul level, she and I were always working together. And I would talk to her soul, and I would say, I don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, but I know that somehow we're doing this together for the light. I would help other people get out, and not India. India was digging her heels in. I'm like, okay, I don't understand why you're last man standing, but it must be a spiritual reason that you're doing this. And in the end, everything made sense. And ultimately, we were both working for the same side. And if she hadn't have stayed in till the end, she wouldn't have had the information she needed to give the government that would have put the nail in the coffin. What I maybe didn't appreciate fully is that somebody or some group would systematically want to separate us and to mortally damage our relationship and try and tear our love apart. That I thought was impossible. And that was a rude awakening for me that actually happened. Now, I do believe love triumphs always in this case, and that the India that has returned to me is somebody that I will never take for granted any aspect of our relationship. We've had to fight for it against all odds. And it is so precious. I mean, your child is always precious, but it's kind of like we went to war together. And so we're war buddies too.
Your daughter is yourself appearing. So that love is so deep. And I really see that with you two as a reflection of one another. And the strength is so clear of what you have together. So much of that comes with forgiveness of self and forgiveness with each other. And I was just wondering if either of you wanted to touch on what forgiveness means to yourself or to your relationship.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, because it was really hard. In the beginning, it was like we were speaking different languages. And I know that people can relate to that, whether it's addiction or mental illness or trauma in general. It's to bridge that gap so that the communication feels loving and feels understanding takes a lot of effort on the other person's part as well, not only the one who's healing. So my mom was so committed to helping me heal that she researched everything she could about cults. She watched every documentary, read every book, went to every expert. Like, that's a loving act. Somebody going out of their way to say, how can I understand you better instead of what's wrong with you that I don't understand you, is a totally different perspective. And to me, that helped me kind of melt the iceberg that had kind of formed around my heart due to the conditioning of the cult. And I started to see, wow, this person really loves me, because they had programmed me to believe that it was the opposite for so long, that I actually felt afraid when I was around her. Like, my body didn't even feel comfortable when I was around her. That's how deep the programming can go. And for me, the forgiveness of myself and understanding why I even got into the situation that I got into, how indoctrination and grooming work, how brainwashing works. I had to also understand all of that for myself so I could have a little bit of, compassion for me too, instead of being like, what's wrong with you that you got into this situation? Because like, that doesn't leave anybody in a good place.
I remember a moment after India had been in deprogramming for an entire year. She'd been back and she was sitting across from me and she said, Mom, I know I love you, but I can't feel it.
Wow.
And my heart broke, because actually I get chills thinking about it, because I think secretly my biggest fear was, I'm going to get her back physically, but I may never get her heart back, or I might never get her mind back to the India that I know loved me.
Well, experts even told you that might be the case.
There was nothing to forgive with her. She had been brainwashed by people who had coerced her. I had to find a way to forgive myself. And even the experts would say, it's not your fault. You can't be mad at yourself or be guilty. These cults are well-oiled machines. The truth is, and this has haunted me always, it's like, where did I go wrong that my daughter then became susceptible? And it has taken me years to really unpack.
I'm curious what you would say to maybe other mothers who are in the same position as you. What would you say to them?
It's about unconditional love. No matter what your child is going through, to reach out, to offer a hand, to be there for them, to listen, to validate, to be understanding. Make sure you communicate to your child that you have complete confidence in them to be able to overcome whatever challenges they're going in.
Having somebody who didn't doubt that I could heal was so pivotal, because so many people are going to be like, wow, that was really intense what you went through, glad it wasn't me, kind of thing. And then they just leave you at that and you're like, excuse me, like, you're gonna leave me at that, instead of actually going like, wow, what you went through is really hard, and I believe that you have the capacity to do anything that you can to heal. And like, that kind of encouragement and that kind of cheerleading is definitely what I needed, because there were some days that felt so dark and so crushing that I was just like, I don't even recognize myself. For a long time, I would look in the mirror and I didn't feel me. It's a really trippy thing to explain, but I now know that it's real because I feel myself again. And when I look in the mirror and look into my eyes, I feel myself. But there was a while when looking, there was no familiarity there anymore.
I have to sign off, which is very sad for me.
I know, I told you it would be sad.
It is adorable. And India, of course, you're the cat meow. So
thanks so much for being with us for the time that you had, Catherine. And we always look at our relationships in the community as evergreen. So this is just one of many conversations we look forward to having with you, and just wish you so much love and blessings in your day.
Thank you. God bless you too. Thank you so much.
Wow, you're so special.
Isn't she the cutest?
I love your guys' relationship. This has been such a journey of loving yourself and figuring out what works for you. I'm super curious about if there's ever been a time on your journey where you struggled to love yourself, or you struggled with your relationship to yourself, and kind of what that felt like in that moment.
Oh yeah, there wasn't just one moment. There's like, months and years of not loving myself. I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror. I didn't want to put on pretty clothes. I didn't want to take care of myself with food, because I was no longer in the cult, and I was now in a time of my life where you could consider it like downtime.
Yeah.
And downtime brought up everything. Like I started having panic attacks regularly. I wasn't okay, but I didn't have the words or the language to express myself, which was infuriating and really lonely because as you know, like when you're struggling and when you're feeling depressed, you sometimes don't have the words.
I'm wearing a reminder right now that says, be kind to your mind. And a lot of what you just shared was like, melting right now. A lot of what you just shared was just like, this was my relationship with my inner critic. And I'm wondering what you would want to say to someone who can't get out of bed and how they can be kind to their mind.
When you're in that place, there's not a lot that you can say that will reach you. It's really tough. That's a pretty hateful place. And I know it well because that you have that critic and you have that judger who's basically telling you you're a piece of shit, you're a loser, you don't matter in this world, nobody loves you, I don't care about you, and I don't care if you just lie here all day because you're useless. And that is like the type of dialogue that I heard, and I think other people can probably relate to that. And there came a point where I had to just actually try and fight back. That's what it felt like. And I was fighting back against that voice that was so dominant in my mind that I didn't think that there was another voice until I started to build her up. And it was kind of like fake it till you make it, because I would have to tell myself like, no, that's not true. You're not a loser. I don't want to listen to you right now. You're not invited to my house. I would like you to leave. And if you come back, I will tell you to leave again. And so it was kind of like a constant fight until that other voice started to feel a little stronger and more real. All of the things that you want to hear from the person that you love, you have to feed yourself with that, or else you won't have access to that resource when you're feeling low. You'll just go with what your brain is used to, which is the spiral.
No matter what someone might say, like sometimes it feels like toxic positivity. It might feel like, I
like, I love you. You're like, shut up. I hate me. Get out of here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, how did you even notice that it was time to reprogram your mind to a different voice?
Well, I consider myself a little bit lucky here because I had systematic hateful programming from the cult for 7 years. I also was predisposed to certain, toxic dynamics from my family of origin. Peace out. I love you all. But, there's some chaos. There was some chaos there too. I think what really tipped the scale in my favor was that I knew everything that I had been programmed with came from a sociopath who was a hateful guy that hated women and hated really anyone who objected him. And that kind of helped me realize, like, I think I want to get rid of this. This isn't really how I think about myself. And then having him go to prison for, 120 years, after that, even more pain and PTSD started to arise in me because now he was away, but I was still so scared. One of the lucky ones that actually gets their perpetrator put into jail, and I was still afraid. So imagine being a victim of sexual violence who's has to live knowing that maybe their perpetrator is in their family or is at their school and they have no recourse. So like, I take what happened to me very seriously because I feel really grateful, but I was also still very traumatized by him even after the fact, and by his trainings, that I was like, this guy's in jail and I'm still a prisoner in my own mind. And so I think that's what really made me want to fight back, because I was like, this guy's not going to take another fucking day of my life. Like, he already took 7 years plus, no more. And so I had to fight to like get all of it out of me in any way that I could.
When those moments come up, love her. Like, you love the right now you, and then you love the her that made those choice or that was on that path. And
try to.
Yeah, exactly. And we're often talking about healing and recovery not being linear. So we're sending you so much love as you're loving all those parts of you as well. I'm curious what you would want to say to any of those listeners that might be listening. And so what you would say to your younger self as well, if she was listening to you talk.
She would laugh at me. She, she's like the freest version of myself that I'm striving to get back to. The one who is unapologetically herself. That's like my goal. I would tell her there's going to be some really tough days, and I'm going to be here with you on the other side, and I promise that I won't abandon you. But it's not always going to be fun and sunshine and roses, but you will have the life that you want to have. You just have to fight for it. And I would kind of like prepare her for, like what my mom said, prepare her for battle, because I was so sheltered in a lot of ways from the bad parts of the world that I was so trusting, and I didn't know what to look for, and I didn't know how to identify red flags. And sure, I, might get a little sense when someone walked by who I didn't feel good around, but I would be like, oh, you shouldn't feel that because that's not nice. That to me is a problem waiting to happen, because what I would say to students and like my peers is, don't ignore your instincts. Like
Right.
Your instincts are there for a reason, and they're there to protect you, and they're once again your superpower. I had my intuition kind of like completely annihilated out of me from the cult, but I think we all kind of find times in our life where we ignore the warning signs that our bodies are trying to communicate with us. And like, I talk about the red flags a lot, and one of the major things is how you feel.
Yeah.
Does it feel good or does it feel bad? That's a really good, easy indication.
Again, I love how much you listen to yourself and that self-awareness now. I'm sure that took years. You've been doing so much work. I mean, just speaking to you now, you are beyond incredible what you share and the amount of tools that you've gained on this journey through these last 4 years since you've been out of that cult. What's been the biggest thing that has helped you grow in these last 4 years to help you get out of the reprogramming? Yeah.
The wildest part about deprogramming is that it comes out in all sorts of ways that you don't expect. Like the same way that we feel about triggers. Sometimes you're like, wow, I didn't expect that to be so triggering. And then all of a sudden you're feeling all sorts of feelings around something that you expect to only feel one way about, which is either I'm supposed to like this or not like this. And so I think the biggest thing of my growth that really pushed me past my comfort zone was writing my book, because I'm also dyslexic. And so I always had so much insecurity about my capacity to learn and to express myself and to write, because I didn't even know how to read until I was like 9. I always thought that I had something wrong with my brain. And so I think, talk about vulnerabilities, that made me really susceptible to manipulation, because I didn't trust that my capacity to learn or to grow or to even think for myself was strong. That was probably the biggest, because it was also the first time that I had expressed my experiences outside of myself. So I wrote my book in conjunction to doing the documentary, but I started writing before I did the documentary Seduced. And it was crazy, because every time I would write, I would have nightmares at night, because I was doing the very thing that they told me not to do for 7 years, which is to share what had happened in NXIVM. They would always say, you can't take notes, you can't talk about your experiences here. And then when I was in DOS, you definitely couldn't talk about anything that you were experiencing to anyone. So it was total isolation. So writing and actually getting the words out of my mouth and out of my fingers was the first time that I really disobeyed. Like, I mean, leaving was disobeying, but expressing myself was really disobeying the programming. So it brought up a lot, but it also propelled me, because all of a sudden when I cracked that little, crack that open, it was just flooding was flooding out of me because I wanted it out. Like I wanted all of these secrets and all of this pain to come out. Additionally, what helped was when the series actually did come out in 2020, I did a virtual press tour, which was pretty extensive because it was COVID. So I was doing sometimes like 16 interviews a day. Whoa. And that was insane because now I was talking about this stuff that I was never supposed to talk about to hundreds and hundreds of people. And so I was doing really, quote, air quotes here, bad by the cult standards, but good by mine, because I was finally able to tell the truth.
Yes, and reclaim your story, your truth, which is so needed to hear and
so empowering, but also really scary. So like, and hard. So if you're thinking about going out there and telling your story, like be prepared because you get the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I have one question that's coming up, but I think it would be a good question to end with. Who is India Oxenberg? Because you're so much more than that experience. You're so much more than what's happened to you. Love to know if you had to introduce yourself and write your own bio of who you are. Who is India Oxenberg?
I think I'm a peer in a lot of ways. Like I'm a friend. I consider myself a people person, but who's also an introvert. I need a lot of alone time, but I also really love to collaborate. Just a woman who's trying to heal and trying to grow, and also trying to enjoy my life for the first time in a long time. So I'm trying to put enjoyment first and let my passion kind of guide me, and learning to listen and learning to speak a lot louder than I used to.
Please take up space because earlier your journey is incredible, and I got chills when you were sharing that you're taking over enjoyment and enjoying parts of your life. And I'm just really grateful that we got to learn a little bit more about you and a little bit more about your journey, your healing journey at the level that you have. And again, I'm so grateful that we get to learn alongside of you, and hope that others never have to go through an experience that you went through.
That's my hope. And part of my mom and my motivation with our foundation to just really make healing accessible to all and to make it free. And so that anyone can come and find a community similar to yours that's really safe, and that they can avoid a lot of the pitfalls that we have fallen in ourselves. So we're really looking forward to launching that and just putting out more information so that people don't have to go looking down the wrong rabbit holes.
Right. And like you said, healing should be accessible. I'm so excited to see what you all create, and I can't wait to check that out.
We're at the edge of our seats. That's really exciting.
I hope it's good now. No, we're working hard, but it's good. It's a passion project.